So what if I told you that a simple text file, yeah, just a 200-line prompt, could wipe out nearly $300 billion of market value? We're not talking about a new product or some revolutionary platform, just a plain old text file. Well, that's exactly what happened, and it's a huge signal that the entire software industry is about to get turned on its head. $285 billion. I mean, just look at that number. That's how much value was just gone. It's a number so big, it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around. And it happened unbelievably fast. We're talking about 2 trading days, just 48 hours. A massive shockwave ripped through the stock market, hitting some of the biggest, most established names in software and professional services. So you have to be wondering, how on earth is this possible? How could something so small, so seemingly insignificant, cause a financial earthquake this huge? Well, that's the big mystery we're going to unpack right now. Okay, so let's get into it. The spark. On January 30th, the AI company Anthropic put out a few open source plugins. One of them was for legal contract review. And you know what? It was fine. Competent, but not really a world-changing piece of tech. But that didn't matter. The second the market saw it, it completely freaked out. And you can see the carnage right here. Thomson Reuters, a behemoth in legal data, had its biggest single-day stock drop ever. RELX, the company that owns LexisNexis, got hammered, and LegalZoom absolutely cratered. In a flash, the market decided that the entire legal and professional information industry was worth a whole lot less. But here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. That little plugin didn't start the fire. The fire was already burning. All the plugin did was throw open the doors and show everyone the flames. It exposed a deep structural vulnerability that was already there, hiding just below the surface. So if the plugin wasn't the real problem, what was? Well, the real vulnerability was the very financial foundation of the entire enterprise software world, a business model that's been the king for more than 20 years. It's called the per-seat software-as-a-service model. You've probably heard of it. The basic idea is simple. For every single human being that logs in and uses the tool, the company pays a license fee. It's how giants from Salesforce to Adobe make their money, and how Wall Street figures out what they're worth. And this right here, this slide shows you the fundamental collision course we're on. The old way, on the left, works great as long as a person has to log in to do the job. But the future, over on the right, is all about AI agents. They don't need to log in. They can just access the data and do the work themselves. And just like that, the entire per-seat model, it just breaks. It becomes obsolete. Now, this whole cascade didn't just stop with software stocks. While traders were hitting the panic button, something much quieter was happening that shows how this is already playing out in the real world for real companies. So get this. The big accounting firm, KPMG, was in the middle of negotiating fees with their auditor, Grant Thornton. And at first, Grant Thornton pushed back on giving a discount. They used the classic defense, right? Hey, our value comes from our expert humans, and they cost a lot of money. But KPMG's response was, well, kind of brilliant and totally brutal. They didn't even say, we're going to replace you with an AI. Nope. They just said, look, we both know AI is changing how this work gets done, so your old prices don't make sense anymore. They weaponized the idea of AI to force the negotiation. And you know what? It worked. Grant Thornton folded. KPMG got a 14% discount. This proves it, right? This AI-driven price drop isn't some academic theory about the future. It's happening now. And that move is now the playbook for every single negotiation in professional services. Which, of course, brings us to the multi-billion-dollar question. If your entire business, your entire valuation, is built on a pricing model that's basically a ticking time bomb, how do you survive? The answer is a huge and, frankly, very risky pivot. Look, for these big legacy companies, there's a trap. It's just bolting on a few AI features. Add a chatbot to your old clunky interface and pretend you're an AI company. The market sees right through that. The only real path forward is a total rebuild, an agentic-first rebuild. That means redesigning your whole system so that AI agents are the primary user and changing your pricing to be about the value you provide, not how many humans log in. But hey, don't count these big guys out just yet. They've got 2 killer advantages that a new startup just can't copy. First, the data edge. We're talking decades of valuable structured data. And second, the accountability edge. You could call it the single ringable neck. When things go seriously wrong, big companies need one vendor who is legally on the hook. Okay, so let's bring all this home, because the exact same massive pivot that these huge companies are facing, well, it applies directly to every single one of us. What does all this mean for your career? Think about it. If you're mainly using AI to just, proofread your emails or summarize a report that you could have just read yourself, then you are making the exact same mistake. You're just bolting on AI to the way you already work. And just like with those big software companies, this gives you a false sense of security. It feels productive, right? It feels like you're staying current. But really, you're just decorating a structural problem in your own career. You're not actually solving it. So that's the choice. That's the question we all have to answer for ourselves. The gap between just using some AI tools and fundamentally rebuilding how you work to leverage these incredible new things, that gap is everything. So are you just bolting AI on, or are you ready to rebuild? In the end, that 200-line markdown file didn't decide who's going to win and who's going to lose. All it did was fire the starting gun on a race everyone thought was still 5 years away. And that massive repricing of value for huge companies and for our own individual skills, it's not over. It's just getting started. And the clock is definitely ticking.